Hey, what is up, friend and fellow anti-netter? It is I, Scott Shepper, here on a Tuesday, and I just drew up this card, and I drew it as a summary of really an anatomy of what comprises an Antinet Zettelkasten. Now, I'm going to move it over here because I think it does a little bit better to see it against a dark background. And what I want to do is, I know this is kind of scribbly. I'm not the best drawer. I'm not even a good doodler, as you could probably term it. And regardless, I want to walk through this slowly with you because this is a nice little useful conceptualization that will probably make its way into my book on the Antinet Zettelkasten. And that's essentially the reason I drew up this card, because in my book, I get into a lot of really deep theoretical stuff and conceptual stuff, but I think the best way to really prove if you understand something or not is to be able to diagram it out and explain it simply. And as you can see from the course of the last several months, my videos have evolved, and they're going to continue to evolve because from your feedback, and from teaching others, I've tried to simplify and consolidate the whole process of teaching an Antinet Zettelkasten. So anyway, I want to walk through each of these with you right now. And I'm actually going to pull up my chair in a second, sit down and walk through this with you, okay? All right, let's start. So there are three main boxes of an Antinet Zettelkasten, okay? So there's the main box, and the main box is essentially the main cards and the main ideas that stand alone themselves. And if you followed my Getting Started guide, you will see that I like to specify that one should create a system that resembles and is based on the academic disciplines. And I provide a Wikipedia link, and if you haven't read the piece yet, it's letter 1 on my website, https://scottshepper.com. You can see the links and all that stuff in the description of this video. So anyways, there's the main box, okay? So 1,000, is like the humanities branch, and goes to like 5,000, right? And then there is the Bib Box. This is short for bibliography. The bibliography is essentially listed by author last name, and it's alphabetized. And I'll get into that in a second. And the third box type you're going to need if you want to create an Antinet Zettelkasten is the index. The index box is also alphabetized, and it is organized by key term. And the key term points you to the addresses, the numeric alpha addresses of the main box. So let's drill down into the main box, okay? The main box contains main cards. A main card is basically a card, as you can see, like a note card, usually a 4x6 inch note card. However, sometimes I use a 3 inch by 5 inch note card. And in the top right, you'll see that there's that numeric alpha address. So that one reads, it's very, I wrote it very, very small, but you can see it's 4214, which is in like the information science branch /1. And that's the address of where to find that actual card, okay? And on the main card, you will find main notes, and there's several types of main notes. One of the types are excerpts notes, which are essentially quotes, okay? Another type are reformulations, that is taking the content or the excerpt or a paragraph and then breaking it down into individual parts. Like one, if an author says there are several primary components that make up X, you then can reformulate that passage by creating, a numbered list of like, X is comprised of 3 components, 1, 2, and 3, and then, reformulate that content. Another type of a main note is reflections. That is, writing it as if you're teaching it to someone, and writing the notes as if it's a paragraph or a section in a book that you're about to publish, or an article you're about to publish. Also within main notes, there are certain cards called, Johannes Schmidt in his article calls it collective references. I call them collectives. So there's essentially two types. There's card link collectives, which are, it's a card that is essentially a list of other internal links inside of your main box, okay? These are things that, essentially say, okay, well, let me just show you real quick a card link collective, okay? Here's an example. So over here, this is a layout of my book, right? And for instance, here's a note I have on selection. It's a process of selecting material. Then it says selective relations of relations. And then you see that little squiggly is just a shorthand I use to mean 4214, since I'm in 4214 right now. So it's 4214/3D/310G0A2. That's a card link right there. Here's another card link, is selection C4214/3D/310G082. I guess I just repeated that for some reason. And Luhmann's theoretical definition of communication is built around selection. So that's link me to 4212/4/3. Those right there are card links. These are internal links to other parts of my Antinet in the main box, right? Okay, that is what a card link is. Okay, so let's go back to this. So, oops. Well, that's kind of crazy. So there we have some card links, okay? That's a card link collective. And another thing to note is there's another type of collective called, let me zoom this out so I can get this focused. I don't know, there we go. Maybe that's better. Move this over here. I just want you to be able to see this. Yeah, that's better, okay. And then there's another type of card link called, or a collective called external reference collectives. These are essentially outbound links. These are things like, for more literature, more passages on the concept of, selection, see, this book, page 46, or this book, page 22. Like, it'll be like see author name, or Zotero tag, and then the page number. That's what an external reference collective is, okay? And really conceptually, there's two types of collectives, which are also called hubs. There's emergent collectives, which just emerge over time. As you come up with ideas and learn things, you just you just add it to this collective. And then there's structured collectives, okay? Now, an emergent collective is something that Luhmann used at the front of his main sections. And emergent collection is, for example, in my own Antinet, or I'll pull out 4214. At the very beginning, an emergent collective is something like this. I have a list of Zettelkasten, and then these ideas were added over time. They emerged over time. There's no pre-planned order to it. So there's like my Zettelkasten book, high-level plan, my Zettelkasten brainstorming, my PKM goals, all that stuff. So that's an emergent type of collective. Now, the other type, as you can see, is the structured collectives. Structured collectives are pre-planned collections of different card links. So this is a structured collective for the book that I'm writing right now, right? So on the front, I've got front matter, acknowledgements, intros, and stuff like that, 4214/50. So these are all structured. It's like, what's the point of the Zettelkasten? Why a book on Zettelkasten with the card link, okay? Nicholas Luhmann, the man, I have a chapter on him. I just wrote this one, this one yesterday finally, and I'm gonna have to break this section up because this chapter is 19,000 words, the myths of Zettelkasten. And this was written yesterday. Now, so this is over here a structured example of structured collectives. Let me show you some external outbound links, okay? So In Zotero, I create tags for some bibliography references, and I put an R in front of it. So r.zde.intro means in my Zotero library, I just search r.zde.intro, and then it points me to the reference. So this is like research on myths of Zettelkasten. This points me to, outbound links from my Antinet outbound into a real world, like, website articles or books and stuff like that. Okay, so that's what an external reference, set of reference, and it's a collective of external references, you see. So I know this is kind of confusing terminology, but once you learn it, it'll start to make sense, especially once you use it. So anyway, that takes us through. So that was the main box and all of the main notes that I've just taken you through. The next thing I want to show you is essentially the bibliography box, okay? And the bibliography box is essentially, where you put your literature notes or any of the notes that you take when like listening to a podcast or a YouTube video, and you organize it by last name of the author, okay? Let me see how close we can get this. Sorry for the zoom, you guys. Let's see. I don't know. I think that's okay. Oh, that looks good. Oh, there we go. Look at how clear that is. Okay, so we have the Bib box, and it's organized A to Z. Now, on the Bib box contains Bib cards, okay? And, I've called these staging cards, literature notes. I think it's a little confusing. So right now I'm trying Bib cards and bibliography notes, okay? Or just Bib notes. And the front of the Bib card contains, the author's last name, then his first name, and then the title of the book and all the bibliography material. The back of the card contains, and it's in a vertical position, as you can see, right? It contains, page numbers like 4, and then a brief note, okay? Those are Bib notes, 4, 9, 22, 32, 42. So Bib notes are just brief observations, like author talks about this, or I disagree with this, what the author says. And what you fill in for this are key terms. And key terms are the things that you're going to be stamping into your index and essentially neuro-imprinting on your mind. And the key terms are just cues, like you'll find on the Bib notes, you'll see something like, selective relations of relations. That'll be like a key term that I use because that's a concept Lumen talked about, and I have a section in that in my index and also in my section collectives, right, of selection, selective relations of relations, stuff like that. And then there's excerpt cues, like, I'll start a quote with, quote, he said, or, like some passage, like, he said, ... And then the he said is really just the start of the quote. And then that cues me to like, oh, I should go back and maybe I want to either reformulate the quote or I want to rewrite the quote and actually excerpt the full quote and then reflect upon it. So that is essentially what a Bib card is and a Bib note is. Now, real quick, I learned something interesting this week, and I was always under the impression that Lumen only used, for every single book he wrote, he used only one card and one Bib card and fit an entire book, onto one Bib card. That's actually false. I've been scanning and researching Lumen's online archive, and I found, certain cards he takes, 3 or 4 Bib cards, right? And on the front and back, he will have, for like the second Bib card, he'll have, full notes like this, of the entire Bib notes, okay? I found one card even, he read one book, and then he had like 6 Bib cards of Bib notes written on front and back, So you don't necessarily need to try to fit the entire book on one card. I even found some instances where Lumen, he had 15,000 Bib cards in his Zettelkasten, which spanned a 33-year period. So, 33,000 divided by 15,000, or 33 years, or 15, let's say 15,000, cards, bib cards, divided by 33 years, gives you, if you break that out, it comes out to like roughly 1.2 books or bib cards he created every single day. So if you're under the impression that he read one book every single day, that's actually a false impression. There was a lot of notes where he only read 2 to 3 pages of the book, and he would just write bib notes for that section, for the section that he read. So you don't have to actually read the entire book. That's another interesting little tidbit that you'll get, and you'll learn about more in my book. But I've just provided you with that insight right now. So congrats for tuning in. You get all these little bits and pieces of nuggets that I'm stumbling upon as I'm writing the book and doing research more. Or doing more research, Yeah, and by the way, don't worry, I'll get an editor, so because obviously I sometimes misspeak and rearrange words and confuse things. So anyway, before continuing on, I want to let's now outline the index box. Okay, the index box is also alphabetized, so A to Z, so ABC, and it's organized by key term. So the index box contains index cards, and there's two types of index cards. There's both the key term list, which is, at the very, very top, you'll just see the letter A, and then you'll have a list of a bunch of key terms like Atom, and then 4329/1 with the card link address, to find it, and then you'll find like anatomy with 3568/2. And so what I showed in I believe it was the last video, or 2 videos ago, of how the index works is after, these key term list cards, actually after the key term, essentially proves itself that it deserves, a dedicated card, then I will then create a dedicated card for it. So if Atom, which has one link here, 4329/1, if another reference comes up and it's like, 4464/4, I will then cross this out and then create a dedicated card for Atom, which then goes into the index box. So ATOM, and you'll get like a nested array of the links. So that is a very brief guide and rundown of the anatomy of an Antinet Zettelkasten. And, just to summarize, there's 3 boxes. There's a main box, a bib box, an index box. Inside the main box goes main cards, which I've shown you the types of main cards. Inside the bib box goes bib cards, and inside the index box, there goes index cards. And I think, at least so far, that has been one of the easiest and most straightforward ways of explaining what an Antinet Zettelkasten is, because, otherwise, if you get confused with terminology like permanent notes, fleeting notes, and literature notes, and a bunch of other stuff, it becomes quite complex. And, I think this is a little bit easier and more practical way of conceptualizing it and explaining it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you followed along, and what you think about this way of learning about an Antinet Zettelkasten in the comments. And also, if you haven't yet, check out our Reddit community. It's at, the links to everything is in the description of this video. So head over there, like this video, subscribe. Also, please subscribe, because I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Anyway, peace and love. Talk to you later. Bye.